Hello and welcome to episode 58 of TechAU. My name is Jason Cartwright. How you going, guys? Let's do this thing once again, and it's the first episode back since I've been to Tech.Ed, the sunny Gold Coast. So a lot of this episode will be focused on what I did there. However, I want to kick off this week with a story about a problem I've had with the podcast in the past, I guess, and you guys would have experienced that, is running into a bandwidth limit with the host. So a symptom of success, I guess, if you like, is, and it's a good problem to have, is I was hitting a 2 terabyte per month limit in bandwidth, and the hosting provider Box.net has basically sorted that out. I've been able to negotiate with them to work around that, and what that means for you guys is if you've experienced download issues before, you've tried to download it via iTunes or somewhere else and it hasn't succeeded, there's been an error. That has been the reason why, and hopefully that's remedied now. So download to your heart's content and tell your friends and share it online. And hopefully that issue is sorted. Certainly if there's any more issues, let me know. But that's good news for the podcast. So we can deliver as many episodes now or as many downloads as we need. So that's great. Tech.Ed Australia was huge on the Gold Coast again, and it seems that now that's the place to be. They've clearly worked out, Microsoft have clearly worked out a good arrangement with the conference centre there. It's obviously a good way that they can get people's minds away from everything that's happening in, say, Sydney, where it's been held in the past, and just take people up to the Gold Coast. It's a beautiful place to do business. There's many worse places in the world. So certainly not arguing about being on the Gold Coast for a week. That was fantastic. So I did attend again as media. So it was courtesy of Microsoft. They flew me up, put me up for a week. So appreciate that. And it's a very interesting year, I guess, for Tech.Ed. It was typically we see a lot of the announcements maybe a month or two before, product releases, and then at Tech.Ed, it's really the discussion around how that's going to play out, how they think business will adopt, et cetera, et cetera. So I usually sit down with Microsoft people and talk to them about, their visions and goals and those kinds of things, which you've seen in the past. However, we're in an interesting stage, I guess, in the product development cycle for Microsoft products. So Windows 7's been in the marketplace a few years now, or a couple of years, and certainly the conversation is turning towards Windows 8. However, being a couple of weeks before Build Conference, which is happening this week, by the way. So Wednesday this week, there's a keynote for Build, but we'll get to that later. So just being prior to Build, they can't really say anything until the announcements are all made at Build. So obviously the conference timing and everything was locked in, 10 months ago. So they didn't know Build was going to happen when all that was booked, and you can't change these things at the last minute. But that's just how it played out. The other issue, I guess, is Mango. So for Windows Phone 7, the next release of Windows Phone 7 being called Mango, and some developers have it now, and I happen to be a developer with Constructive, so I have Mango, which is awesome. And it's not out yet officially, so there was some sessions on what's coming in Mango, but there's still, that list of 500 features that's meant to be coming in Mango. We've still only seen some of them, and it'll be, I think, more and more of that will come out, and potentially a Build as well. More of that information about Mango will come out. So what did I do instead of talking to the Microsoft people? Well, I talked to the people who have built products and applications on top of Microsoft services. So Azure, their cloud service, is huge and is now becoming the back end for not only Windows Phone apps, but some people are building iOS apps and Android apps that have backends for Azure. Let me give you a rundown, I guess, let me take you through my crazy week that was Tech.Ed. So I arrived there on Tuesday, straight into the opening keynote, and that was this year split up. So we had a developer keynote and an IT pro keynote, and that was based on user feedback. So it is, Microsoft are listening to what you guys say, the attendees that go, and trying to change things up to better suit people's needs. So that was great, and then we all came together into the major keynote, which was much more general, comedy, amusing, just sort of a good start to the event. Adam Spencer, a lot of you would know, is obviously a science geek, and a good presenter for sure. And then a chick from Cochlear, and other great presenters on the night. So if you're watching my stream, you would have seen photos go up in the night. I was madly snapping photos and then taking out the SD card from the camera and uploading them straight away while I was in the keynote. So if you're watching the Twitter feed, you would have seen posts go out. And then obviously the Flickr feed is where they all live. So flickr.com/techAU if you want to see some of those. After the keynote, we had the opening party, which is great. You walk around the show floor and, either play Xbox games or, have a couple of drinks and a bit of food. And a lot of the partners for Microsoft have booths set up. And, if you've never been before, then I want to sort of, give you a sense of what's on offer and what the experience is like. This is, I think, my 5th Tech.Ed out of the last 6 years. So, I've had a fairly good bit of experience with Tech.Ed, if you like. It is a lot of fun. It's a lot of craziness. Long days. Like if you think you're going to Tech.Ed and you're going to, have a breeze or a free week or, almost guarantee that you'll be doing more work at Tech.Ed than you do at your desk every week. So just be aware of that. Anyway, the next morning, the media got to walk through or got taken through the show floor. As much as things were on offer the night before, it was a much better opportunity for us to talk to experts in their different fields, that were presenting different technologies around the showcase floor. So also, the reason I really enjoyed it was a good opportunity to take photos without hundreds of people around, video, that sort of thing. There was one, if you're watching the site and you've seen some posts from Tech.Ed, one of the posts I did was the Windows Phone demo where they sit it on the Surface table and then your contacts and stuff and your content from the phone goes to the Surface table and then you can interact it with the Surface and then they lay it in the tablet as well. So those sorts of demos was really difficult to get video of the night before. So the media showcase walk around was great. Started off with interviews of Family HQ, Green Button, Easy Data Solutions. The Cloud Media Roundtable at the end of Wednesday was really interesting. The CTO of Microsoft Australia, along with all the journalists and stuff, sat around and basically had a good open discussion about what the issues are in the cloud environment right now in Australia, and one of those is obviously Australian data centers. Again, I wrote a post on this straight afterwards, but the crux of it is a lot of people seem to think or have this in their head that there's actually a legal obligation to store data inside Australia, inside our borders, and from what they were saying or what Microsoft says is that's not actually the case. There is no law in Australia that makes that a reality. And when most businesses actually hire a legal team and they go and investigate that, that's what they actually come back with and what they actually find. So that there is no legal obligation. Sure, companies may decide that it's company policy that they want data onshore, but that was kind of their response to two questions as to why we don't have an Australian data centre, because some businesses have perhaps held off from putting their data online because of that fear that it's going to be hosted in, our closest data centre for Azure is Asia Pacific, or Singapore is the location. So anyway, that was a Cloud Media Roundtable. That was a really interesting discussion. The next day was interviews with Sol Solutions, Resonate Solutions, which built Windows Phone 7 apps, and they were like transit apps, so getting around Sydney and Queensland. And then Windows SDK, which is really good. So that came out earlier in the year, and like a lot of developer types, I grabbed my Kinect, plugged it in the computer, and start playing around with the SDK. And yeah, look, I sort of suggested to them that I thought there should be a marketplace, and I've heard that it's not just me calling for that. I think there's a lot of other people online who would like a mechanism for those developers who are creating some awesome things to actually gain publicity around what they've spent, probably poured hours into, days or weeks into developing something. They want to share it with the world, and right now the license agreement doesn't allow that for it to be a commercial saleable item, but you could certainly give it away for free in some sort of marketplace. And the response was that they're not really looking at that. When the commercial version of the SDK ships, then there potentially will be something like that. But right now, people tend to be sharing their projects on Codeplex. So codeplex.com, just search for Connect, and a bunch of projects come up. So you can download that, and if you got Visual Studio and stuff installed, you can just fire that up and have a play around with what other people have built. Then that was followed by the closing party. So closing party this year, go-karts in the basement. Last year it was laser tag and arcade machines. You did have to be 0.0 blood level, so most people, I guess, there was quite a queue. Sometimes I heard up to 2 hours at sometimes, at some points of the night. But most people, I think, kind of skipped on that. They just want to have a few drinks and relax. Good way to wind down after a couple of busy days. What else? They had music and trivia in the main arena, which was good. And the big things I wanted to point out was they had Forza 4 and Star Wars Connect available to be played, like playable demos on show. So if you don't know how those timelines are playing out, those games aren't out yet. Forza 4 is going to be like October 11, and Star Wars Connect has recently been delayed till next year. So for us to get hands on with those is kind of good. Forza 4 is looking stunning, looking very, very cool. And to those enthusiast drivers like myself, racing fans, don't be alarmed. The Kinect support is very optional and very minimal. So it's not like you're going to have to be, doing the steering in the air. It might be an option, but it's not going to be, required, and it's not going to be the default. So don't be too concerned with that. Star Wars Connect was the build that we'd seen videos from earlier in the year at E3, I believe. And so it was still a little laggy between when people were doing moves and them being translated to on-screen action. So that could be potentially why it's been delayed till next year for them to fix up those issues. Anyways, that is pretty much a wrap. I did video interviews, which is, I think, something very unique that nobody else was doing. Everybody else would interview people, take their notes and go and write their pieces, whereas from my knowledge, I was the only one who did video interviews with all these people. And I'm really happy with how they turned out. Audio, I guess, could be a little bit improved. I hope you guys forgive me a little bit for being a traveller. I did actually packed up the sound recorder booth, arms, mics, cables, everything. Just reassembled the studio just before, actually. But I didn't end up using all of that because it was sitting around a small coffee table and the mic arms and stuff wouldn't have worked really well. I'll have to think of a better solution next year. So I just went with the on-camera microphones, which aren't fantastic, but I think the content was enough to, draw you in and sort of forgive, hopefully, the lesser audio quality than what you're used to. So that aside, that was Tech.Ed. It was huge. It was great. Long days, like 7 a.m. starts and 2 a.m. finishes, but a great week. So I flew home on the Friday and it was all over. Back to reality. All right, next story is the Build conference. I mentioned it briefly earlier in the previous story, but Build is happening this week. The keynote starts on Tuesday US time, which is Wednesday our time, and this is where Microsoft are going to unveil all the Windows 8 details. If you've been following the Build blog, the Build 8, so it's blogs.msdn.com/b8, Steven Sinofsky has been posting a lot of very detailed posts about some of the features, a few select features, if you like, about what's coming up in the next version of Windows 8. Things like the copying process, if multiple file copies can be paused, resumed, that sort of thing. What happens when there's name conflicts and how you decide which file is, the one you really want to keep or what you want to do with that. The ribbon UI is going to be in Windows Explorer. What else? It's going to support like VHDs and ISO mounting. Just a bunch of, I guess, tweaks and stuff that we naturally would expect out of the next version. The ISO one, for example, in Windows 7, they added the ability for you to double-click an ISO file, insert a DVD, and burn it to disk. So that used to require third-party software. They build that into the OS. Next version of Windows, Windows 8, now they're going to have the support to basically get rid of like daemon tools or something like that, just to mount your ISOs and just run them directly. So bringing like Hyper-V support into Windows 8 as well, something that used to be on servers. Now they're going to integrate that into Windows 8. So as we move to machines with more and more RAM and can handle virtual machines, and also good for application compatibility. If something doesn't run on the new version, you can just basically emulate that or put it in in its own environment, and it'll still run. So I look forward to hearing much more about what's in store. Hopefully a lot more information about tablets, that tablet UI video that we've seen, the front end, the new Windows 8 interface. It was demoed a lot on tablets, but it'll be across all Windows 8 devices. That's going to be really interesting. I think there's going to be tie-in between Mango and Windows 8, a lot of announcements there, and their whole 3 screens in the cloud vision is really, I think, going to arrive properly in Windows 8. So the phone, the desktop, and the TV through Xbox, which is, by the way, Xbox dashboard update is coming later in the year. It could be October. So that's going to put more like the Windows Phone 7 tiles on your Xbox. Should be good. Also, one more thing. I spent some time at Tech.Ed with Long Zen, and he is actually going to be at Build and covering it with Paul Thurrott and Mary J. Foley and a bunch of the other guys, NeoWin and stuff like that. So look out for his coverage at istartedsomething.com. Next up is this puppy here, the MacBook Air. You'll notice that I've got another one, the old MacBook. This was one of the first aluminium MacBooks, if not the first aluminium MacBook that came out. And it's substantially thicker, heavier, lower screen resolution, you name it, less battery life. Just basically the MacBook Air is fantastic. And it's Core i5, 128 gig SSD model. I wouldn't have been able to get through Tech.Ed without this. So I'd bought it a week prior to. And it can edit, 1080p AVC HD video from the Sony cam I've got with no struggle at all. My desktop machine used to really struggle with that for a long while, and this laptop it's amazing to me that it can do it with ease. And sure, exporting might take a bit longer than a dedicated desktop machine with Core i7 and 12 gig RAM or something, but the honest truth is I took my iPad to Tech.Ed and didn't take it out and didn't use it the entire week. I just used the MacBook Air. And that kind of says something, and I will obviously still keep my iPad because I want to review apps and it does have specific uses, but given that you can have a full laptop running full version of apps and OSs and everything else, because I boot camp this to Windows 7. It's just, this is a much better option for me. It's not much extra weight for so much extra benefit. And so I think that from now on, this is going to be my go-to machine. Battery life is great. It's I can get 5-6 hours out of this. It's not the 10 hours of the iPad, but hey, it's a lot better than the 1.5 to 2 hours I get out of the older MacBook. So that is a couple of years old. So the battery, it's laptop batteries, they don't last forever. It's not dying, but it's just it never did as good a battery life as this is now. I'm probably going to sell this thing. I don't know how much or who to or what, but if you're interested, let me know. What else? Bootcamp 4 on this. Bootcamp 4 is fantastic. I've run Bootcamp 3.3 on this, and it was never quite right. So Apple never really fully supported, wrote the proper drivers for Windows for the hardware. So what that meant is when you're running Windows, it never let the screen go, to the proper brightness. Or basically, when you put it into Windows, the lowest level you could have it on was about half the brightness. So if you think of how, every step of brightness eating the extra battery, if you start with half of the brightness you can have in Mac OS, you're chewing more power. And the other thing was audio. The audio level you could get out of here was never the full volume you could get in Mac OS, and that was a driver issue. In Boot Camp 4, which coincidentally doesn't run on here, Boot Camp 4 runs on the new MacBooks. It's perfect. You get the benefit of the Mac hardware, which is awesome. And then I am a huge Windows 7 fan, so I have a lot of apps, a lot of money invested in apps in Windows, and actually prefer to boot to that more often. So I do boot to Mac OS and use that occasionally to stay up to date, but my go-to OS is Windows 7 on here. So a lot of people gave me a lot of stick about taking a MacBook to to a Microsoft conference, but when you turn around and you're actually running Windows 7, they sort of go, okay. Cool. And I mentioned earlier too about uploading photos. SD card slot in the side of here that's lacking from here. That's hugely beneficial for the DSLR. Just take out the SD card and slip it in the side, upload photos straight away. So I am really a huge fan. And the other thing I want to mention is the buying experience at Apple is awesome. They've really got it down to a T. I walked into the store. It just happened that one of the only Macs or devices that wasn't being used in the store was a MacBook Air. Basically this in the store. So I walk up to the table. Chick comes over, says, "How can I help you?" I said, "I'll have one of these." She goes, "Oh, you've obviously done your research before." I said, "Yes." She basically takes my credit card and details, and I kid you not, 20 seconds later, this guy comes over with a box. "Congratulations, here's your new MacBook Air." Shakes the hand, and then, we back and forward a little bit, and then I'm sure it was the chick's supervisor comes across. "Congratulations, you've just bought the Air, blah, blah, blah," shakes my hand, and just really makes you feel like it's a bit wanky sort of process, but it's very seamless in terms of, making the purchase once you know what you're doing. She did offer Apple Care a couple of times, but say no. I just chose not to do that. So overall, just hugely impressed with the way they can do that. So very quickly, I guess she picked up that I was somebody who knew something, who'd done my research before. She didn't try and overmarket me. She just sold me what I needed. And I was in the store probably all of about 3 minutes. And that's like not 10 minutes exaggerated down to 3. Literally 3 minutes I walked out with a Mac. That's awesome. The one thing I guess that is letting Apple down is their resellers. I actually tried to buy this in Albury and had been told a couple of stores were out or didn't have the stock yet of the new 13 MacBook, the Air, and another one told me that they wouldn't sell it to me without Apple Care because I was getting the educational discount. So I said, well, I'll catch you later, and walked out. So Apple probably need to do a little bit of work with their resellers, but other than that, if you've got an Apple store in your area, you're in a good spot there. Oh, all right, moving on from the MacBook Air, let's talk about Tivo. So Tivo in Australia, first of all, huge fan. I love Tivo. It's awesome, and it's obviously a success in the US, huge success in the US and internationally. However, Tivo Australia has been lacking behind. They're really just licensees of the Tivo. So it was like Tivo HD, which was about the third generation of Tivos. That was it. Hybrid TV is the name of the people that licensed Tivo in Australia. And so we've only seen the 160 gig model, which I have, and then the 320 gig model that came out. That's really the only two models that have come out. In reality, in the US, there's been now 2 models after that we're not seeing in Australia. So we're not getting the updates from when Tivo are releasing new models. And this week, they announced the Tivo Elite, So this is 4 tuners, where the current one is 2, and 2 terabyte hard drive. And the current one is like 100, as I said, 160 I got, but 320 is the current one in Australia. So huge difference between that, not only, storage and tuner wise, but also, the software that it runs as well. The Tivo Premiere, which was the model after what we got, it has, a higher res interface and, flash based. It's just better, faster. And we never seen it in Australia, which is really disappointing. And now this, I asked, is Tivo Elite going to be coming to Australia? And you get the typical, no response. It's a pretty sad situation when you love a product and you want to look, if this Tivo Elite came out to Australia, I would buy it. Like, no questions asked, I would buy it. It's exactly what I want. 2 tuners is very limiting at times, and I wish I had 4. The space can be, if you go away for trips and stuff, some people resort to that external drive, the 1 terabyte external drive. So 2 terabytes as well would solve that issue. It's just better, and we don't have it here, which is really disappointing. There's also a Tivo iPad app, not supported on our Tivos, so we're missing out, and it's just disappointing. So the reason I bring this up, not only because of the new model, but Tivo's licensee here, I mentioned, was Hybrid TV. Their CEO just actually left. Announced on Twitter, I'm in the US now, and contacted her and said who's running it now. And so their chief marketing officer actually stepped up to the position. I'm not sure if that's a temporary thing or a permanent one, but for quite a while now, Tivo's sort of been on autopilot, if you like. They got rid of a lot of their staff a while ago, and they're almost just a sales team now. So it's pretty sad, and if somebody wants to acquire them, I'd absolutely invite that to happen, because the situation right now is just disappointing. So, yeah, that's Tivo. Speaking of CEOs, moving on, Yahoo's CEO Carol Bartz got the firing this week, and basically announced it in a pretty public way. And she sent an email to all her staff, and of course, that being a lot of staff, it made its way to the internet pretty fast. And she was actually dumped by phone, which kind of sucks. And look, Yahoo's an interesting company. It's huge, very successful financially. It's not trending the right way, but that yahoo.com homepage gets a ridiculous amount of traffic. And, they have big properties like Flickr. For now, a recent blog post suggested that Microsoft are going to change the conditions on their SkyDrive, so document, photo storage, that sort of stuff, to make that stuff unlimited. So there's there's restrictions on that right now. But if Microsoft do make that change and SkyDrive becomes unlimited storage for that, it's not going to be storage for your videos and everything else, but even for photos and documents, if that just becomes, not a paid feature. There's a lot of services out there that do the freemium model, give you a little bit for free, but, for most of your storage, you're going to pay. Like Flickr, I have a pro Flickr account. But if Microsoft make this change, I seriously think that I will move photos and where I, upload photos to and share them from Flickr to SkyDrive, assuming there's not going to be any limitation on the physical size or the file size. If it's like per file, then we could upload our 5, 6, 7 meg images from the digital cameras. We could, what's the biggest document you're going to have? It could be 50 meg file or something, a huge PowerPoint maybe. But yeah, that's going to change the industry pretty substantially. And as that develops and grows as a product, and Flickr pretty much stays still, I think there's some issues ahead for Yahoo, that's for sure. But they are a big content company, and there's been talks of acquisitions from people like AOL or mergers. Who knows? The future's, I guess, in doubt. But I do like Yahoo as a company. Their mail kind of sucks, but a lot of people seem to use it. So anyway, bad luck for Carol Bartz, and hopefully the future changes with the new CEO. and we'll see what comes of that in the future. But that's probably going to wrap it up for this episode, guys. Thanks very much for staying with me, and you can definitely check out the blog. techau.tv is the site, and hit me up with any comments or questions. Jason at techau.tv, or the place where I'm posting the most is Twitter, at techau on Twitter. That's it, guys. Catch you next time.